How you all doing? Welcome to CLACCA ULC Homegroup Bible Studies. I have an important announcement to make at CLACCA ULC live stream Sunday church at 5 p.m. Don't miss it. But for now, I would like to acknowledge that the land that we're meeting on is of the Gadigal and Wangal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to the elders, both past and present, and recognise sovereignty, treaty, and social justice has never been ceded. Ceded. So essentially, I would like to continue with the book of Genesis, and we are currently looking at we're currently looking at chapter 32 of Genesis. So in this brief report, Jacob's angelic encounter, and so behind this text, as we know, it was written sometime between 550 BCE and 850 BCE. We suspect the author was Moses, and in this particular passage, there are two parts to the story. First, there Jacob sends presents to appease Esau, and the second part of the story is Jacob's wrestling with Peniel. In this brief report from E, Jacob's angelic encounter has resonances that point backwards and forwards. He encounters the angels of God during both journeys. In the naming speech, this is God's camp and a Hebrew Mackinac. Motivating the place name of Mahanaim also recalls the naming speech at Bethel. Jacob's angelic counter also points forward to the sending of messengers, Malakim, the same word for angels, in verse 3, and to the encounter with the divine being of Mahanaim. Anticipates Jacob's division of the retinue into two companies. Jacob prepares to meet Esau, fearing that Esau will attack him. In the J verse, he prepares by dividing his retinue into two camps, hoping that in the case of the attack, one will escape, and prays to God to deliver him. In the E text, he prepares a gift of livestock, hoping to appease Esau. The two versions complement each other and provide an ironic backdrop to the dangerous encounter that occurs next, not with Esau, who turns out not to be menacing at all, but with God. Esau now lives in the land of Seir, the country of Edom, as the earlier story foretold by the indicative words hairy and red. Although Esau is his brother, Jacob delicately addresses him as my lord. Esau refers to him as your servant, Jacob. He continues to use these terms when they meet. In verses 33, 4 to 16. This location reverses a relationship foretold in Isaac's blessing. Jacob will be the Lord over their brother, and Isaac will serve the brother. Jacob is attempting to mollify Esau by the deliberate use of language. That Esau is coming to meet Jacob is a natural response to Jacob's message. That 400 men are with him raises the likelihood that Esau is coming to exact revenge, echoing the pursuit of Jacob, Laban, and the next of kin, and recalling Esau's intention to kill Jacob. Jacob's eloquent prayer recalls at the beginning and at the end God's promise in 31 to 33. Jacob's humility sounds a new note in the character, although self-abasement is a normal part of such discourse. The emotional appeal to death of mothers and children is capped by the reference to God's promise of many descendants, which yields compelling case for deliverance. The spending of the night is resumed in verse 22, and note the doublet in the E version. Jacob will offer their present to Esau in 33:10. The spacing of the group's livestock will allow for ample time for Esau's anger to abate before he sees Jacob. Afterwards I shall see his face, an ironic anticipation seeing God's face at Peniel. While the present passes ahead, Jacob sleeps at the camp. Jacob's encounter with a mysterious divine being at Peniel is a counterpart to his encounter with God or angels of God at Bethel. Although this symbolic and dangerous rite of passage, the patriarch becomes Eponymous, an ancestor of Israel, a name that commemorates successful strivings with God and humans. In this story of Jacob, Israel also becomes a symbol. He epitomizes is the people of Israel, perennial strive with God, and others survive and prevail. The tone of the story is deliberately ambiguous and mysterious. It is primarily an E story with a J text. In verse 22, the strangeness of the story begins with the disconnecting doublet of verse 22 and 23. In one, Jacob crosses the river with the family, but in the other, Jacob remains behind. It is the middle of the night as Jacob's divine encounter at Bethel, and Jacob was left alone. The strangeness continues with the abrupt assault. The identity of the man is not given, even the type of being is unknown. Hebrew Ishman can refer to a human or deity. Russell completes a three-way wordplay with Jacob's name and the name of the river, Jabbok, as if the mysterious encounter emerges from Jacob's being in this place. Until daybreak anticipates a mysterious request in verse 26. 32 to 25, Jacob is injured, but he refuses to relent unless he receives a blessing. By this request, Jacob reveals his recognition that his mysterious assailant is a deity. The request echoes his earlier successful attempts to gain the firstborn's blessing. Meaning, let me go, day is breaking. Perhaps angels have a duty to present in heaven at dawn, or perhaps the night time is generally a dangerous time when the divine spirits may attack. Jacob gives his name and receives a new one, but the deity will not disclose his own name. The meaning of Jacob's new name, Israel, is explained as you have striven with God and with humans and have prevailed, referring to Jacob's victory over Esau. Isaac, Laban, and now God, or alternatively gods. It is unclear whether the divine being is an angel of God or God himself, since angels can speak in God's name. Jacob's response of the naming place is both mean face of God, since he saw God face to face. Points to God himself, but the story and its language are ambiguous. That a divine adversary is explicitly an angel in hose. On the idea that no one can see God's face, and yet face and live. This idea applies also to angels in Judges 6:22 to 23, 1 and 13 to 22. The sun rose upon him, signaling a new beginning, a new life, after Jacob's potentially deadly encounter. Limping, Jacob is both blessed and damaged by his divine encounter. An aside derives the dietary prohibition of the thigh muscle. The Hebrew phrase is obscure, as a commemoration of Jacob's injury. Therefore, to this day, the Israelites, the shift to the present, joins the sacred past to the present as a charter and justification and discloses the Israelites as the children of Israel, as the promised descendants of the patriarch of Israel. The message of this, while sibling rivalry is not always to deal with, again, it re-emphasized the importance. It demonstrates the links between the struggle to be recognized. It links to transgender struggles in terms of fighting for the recognition of names, but also more importantly, recognizing the name. Recognizing the name is not necessarily a claim to support institutions of invasion. That's all for now. Thank you very much for joining Home Group Bible Studies. We will be back at our regular time slot at 3 p.m. Of Home Group Bible Studies every Sunday. Thank you very much, and we will see you at 5 p.m. For live stream Sunday church. That's all for now. Thank you very much for joining us. God bless, and that's all for now.